Tuesday. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Daily S&M with Rory Sauter and Greg Merck. It is great to be back with all of you. We have a big show tonight, a lot to address, a lot to establish, headline after headline. We haven't been live in a few weeks. We have missed you all. A lot's happened. Greg, I want you to fill us in.
Well, I think the big thing
what we've missed since we've been gone.
Well, we haven't been gone that long, but a lot has happened in the past week for sure.
Well, we haven't done Daily S&M in a few weeks. We did Next Gen Live last week.
Yeah. Well, big thing is this border bill. All very predictable. This is not a real border bill. This is not a legitimate effort by the Democrats to fix the problem. We all know that. It is a political maneuver so that they can blame the Republicans. And, beyond that, we could just kind of just parrot what all of the same conservative hosts are saying. We all know it's true what the Democrats are doing. My question is, are the American people going to buy what the Democrats are telling them, that the Republicans are not serious about fixing the border? I don't believe that they are, but that is really the question. We can just talk about it, and how Biden he erased all of the effective Trump measures. On day one in office, he created the border. Yes, we all get that. That's just like the kindergarten stuff. The real question, the meat and potatoes of this, is will the American people buy it come November? And I just don't think that they're going to buy this narrative that the Republicans have stood in the way.
And I just want to address to everyone, because I've been getting shit lately for this whole scenario of me calling out Trump and me being critical of Trump and me, really going at him. I have for good reason. I have no regret. I'm not sorry. I'm not going to just sit around and say yes to everything this guy does. He's made a lot of mistakes. He's been reckless in a lot of his decision making. Operation Warp Speed was perhaps the biggest policy failure ever by any administration. That was one of the worst things I've ever witnessed, with 60% of small businesses closing forever, the printing of endless stimulus checks, the way he raised the debt carelessly, asking for interest rates at negative. We can go on and on about the trade, how he wanted tariffs, which was not good in the long run. I have so many different issues. All the people he surrounded himself with. There's been more hirings and firings than any administration we've ever seen. Look at all the jackasses that turned on him when he used to call them wonderful people. These are great people. These are the best. They are the best. And then, he takes no accountability for Operation Warp Speed, for raising the debt more than Obama. The immigration crisis. Let's not forget. He compromised with the Democrats. He wanted amnesty in certain cases. This guy was not as tough on immigration as he talked when he ran in 2016. He talked a big game, but he got in there. And like you said, Greg, on several occasions, this guy really wanted to be liked. He wanted to be well received. He wanted to be this person. Maybe it was for good reason, maybe for himself, maybe for, I don't know, but he was looking to appeal to both sides, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And we've learned that time and time again.
Well, I think he did make some big mistakes in his administration. Certainly, the spending the money, the COVID response, I think, was disastrous. Albeit, although he was pushing the narrative that the solution can't be worse than the problem, and he did that. And I think he was against the lockdowns, but he could have done a lot more by way of leadership to prevent the lockdowns from happening. And as far as surrounding himself, at least he had the fortitude to fire these people. And there was a lot of turnover A lot of that, I think, were people that just thought that they could get along with Trump and his personality and realize that they just can't, especially the ones who are these lifelong Washington bureaucrats. But, good on him for firing a lot of these clowns. Many of those guys were grossly incompetent. And, by the way, if you're going to be insubordinate, that's grounds for firing it right there. I mean, contrast that with this idiot in the White House right now. You have a Secretary of Defense who's AWOL. He's getting an operation. He's in a hospital, and nobody in the administration knows about it. And this guy still has his job. So, I mean, yeah, we can look back and we can be critical of all the mistakes in Monday Morning Quarterback, what Trump did. But, man, look at this administration. Disastrous on every single level. As far as the tariffs, I was never a tariff guy, but, right now it's, I live by the do as unto others as others do unto you. That's not the biblical principle, but it works good with trade. China wants to destroy American imports into their country. Well, then we should destroy theirs here. Ultimately, though, the problem is with tariffs is ultimately the consumer pays. I did really get frustrated and bothered by the whole idea that Trump pushed that China's paying these tariffs, and that just doesn't work that way. I don't know why he just continued to push that. And I'm not sure if he really believed it or if he was just trying to deceive the American people, because surely he must know that China doesn't pay for the tariffs. I mean, unless you want to say, well, maybe China discounts their goods to try to close the gap of these new tariffs. Okay, maybe, but that's not China paying the tariffs. That's right. China lowering its prices. Ultimately, the American consumer pays it. The importer, when you bring those Chinese goods in here, you, as the guy who wants to sell them in America, pays the tariff. And then, of course, you pass that increased cost on to the consumer. So that part just always bothered me. But, if China wants to, put tariffs on all American goods, then we should do the same with theirs. That's how it should be. The real issue with China, though, is intellectual property theft. And, what it would do, maybe it will stop these American investors and these American companies from investing in China, knowing that when they go to China to make their stuff, to make their goods, that they're going to come back to America 50, 60, 70% higher. Maybe they'll say, you know what, maybe we'll go to China, or we'll go to India, or we'll go to Mexico, or we'll go somewhere in South America. Maybe they'll think a little bit better. I'll tell you what, it behooves them to do so, not only to escape the Chinese tariffs, but to escape the massive intellectual property theft. Now, on the tariff thing, Trump, and I don't know who's advising him to do that or if he's doing it on his own. He's been talking a lot about the 60% tariffs that he plans on levying to China. He's talking about this tariff things. And I just think that is the biggest mistake to telegraph that. He doesn't need to win this election. And he's not going to win this election on China tariffs. He could talk about China as an economic enemy, as a potential global security threat. He could talk about all of that. But why he is floating this, I'm going to throw 60%, that's just absolutely asinine. He is asking for China to meddle in the elections. And I don't know who's telling him to do that, because we know China and Russia and all of the bad actors around the world meddle in our election, whether it's through their fake news reports and the social media fake videos and all of that. Why would you do that? You're just asking China to deploy all of its assets, to put in all of these fake stories and fake videos and all of this stuff to keep you from. I just don't understand why he's doing that. He can win solely on the border. Obviously, the economy is another big part, but I'll tell you, you just keep pounding the border and the economy. Why are you talking about 60% China tariffs? That's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. It's so unnecessary. And not only that, but he's just asking for trouble. I don't understand that. It's just maybe he thinks he's like got to show I'm tough. I'm tougher than China, and I'm tougher than Xi, and he wants to contrast himself to Biden. But he can do that without saying I'm going to slap 60% tariffs. Look, get elected, then slap the tariffs. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying it's a massive, massive political mistake to talk about it now.
Well, whenever he's tried to do stuff like that, it just backfires on him. The tariffs don't work because then China plays even harder.
Well, and that's an argument to be made and a discussion to be made. But why would you do it, 9 months, 10 months before the election? and stirring up, the hornet's nest, smacking the hornet's nest. Do you want China to meddle? If China is looking at, hey, a Trump election means 60% tariffs, means already hurting our exports, and the China economy, we'll talk about that, is in big trouble. Now, why would you want China to start thinking, hey, what can we do to make sure Donald Trump doesn't get elected? We don't want these tariffs. I don't get it. I'd love to be inside Trump's brain to try to understand what he's thinking there. And I'll tell you what, if I was by his side, I would tell him, you need to keep your mouth shut about these tariffs. That's not to say don't do them. Get elected first. Don't, you're just asking for trouble.
And he's still out there promoting the vaccines too. He's promoting, saying they're fantastic. And, I said earlier that he still has the same assholes around him, like Jason Miller running his campaign. This guy's the biggest scumbag on earth, and he's corrupt as hell. And Trump is also, bringing back and talked about the same people. Jared, who's bad news, Kushner.
I can't get rid of his family, unfortunately.
Well, you don't have to have the son-in-law around. I mean, what does he owe the son-in-law? There's nothing.
Well, I think when it comes to Trump, it's a matter of trust. I mean, this guy, so many people around him have stabbed him in the back. So it's very hard to find people he can implicitly trust.
Can you imagine, though, having trust in a family like the Kushners? That whole family is corrupt. That whole family is full of crime. The father, both brother, Jared and his brother Josh, they're both like.
But not likely to stab Trump in the back. It's not like these, Michael Cohen, who testified.
Man. We saw what Jared did in didn't he get that $2 billion from Saudi Arabia? I mean, he's done some things, man.
Yeah, but these aren't the kind of people that are going to testify against Trump.
No, but I'm saying he does things that are shady and behind closed doors that later come out that make Trump look bad. That's my point.
Yeah,
and some of the things, not everything, but some of the things that have come out, he's done under the Trump administration, which is corrupt as hell. But obviously, even not being associated with Trump, he's been involved with corruption and with his business dealings, stuff like that. But go ahead, sorry.
Well, but I'm comparing him to everybody else. These people out there that are outside his family. If he has got some potential to be compromised, how much worse is it with everybody else is my point. I mean, Trump really has to keep his inner circle very, very close and kind of people he could trust, because he's seen Washington. He knows Washington by now. He knows how rotten people are. So, I mean, he can trust his son, Don Jr., and Eric Trump. Yeah, I know is his daughter. I think he's probably got questions about her and her husband for that. But my point is he's got to be very careful who he surrounds himself with. And that's problematic for Trump. Problematic for any politician, but Trump has seen how people that were in his inner circle, I mean, look at his own lawyers testified against him, his former lawyers testified him in court, so the guy is going to be suspicious of everybody. It's unfortunate because there are so many things that the left looks at Trump and they find wrong with him. So many things that the right looks at Biden, finds wrong with him. And at the end of the day, one of them is going to win, and much of the country is going to be extremely upset either way.
And you bring up something very interesting, and I wanted to touch on this. What's with Trump's legal team, man? It seems like this guy goes through more lawyers than anybody. I mean, we've seen how many lawyers on TV in the past couple of years representing this guy. And there have been a lot of stories and various reports critical of these individuals, saying they're not top of the line. They're really not performing at the highest level. And, Trump is known for hiring individuals that, are not the greatest, even though he says he only hires the greatest. I mean, what are your thoughts on this? I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
What I've been saying all along. It's difficult for Trump to find competent people.
There's been a hell of a lot of there's been so many lawyers in the last couple of years. I can't even count how many have been on TV representing this guy.
Well, because they'll get involved with him, and the best lawyers don't. The best lawyers want to keep working. They know that Trump is coming and going. That he'll be here today and he's gone tomorrow. And their legal practices are they want to be around for years to come. And getting involved in Trump with Trump is for many of them is a death sentence. These lawyers that are going to represent Trump many of them are never going to be hired by anybody else again. I mean, think about who these lawyers are. They're not right-wing conservatives. So it's very difficult for Trump to find the best lawyers in the country because the best lawyers in the country do not want to touch him. They don't want to touch him. For many of them, it's personality. Many more, it's going to be Trump's policy. But, I think across the board, they know that when you go near Trump, that's pretty much the end of your career as a lawyer or as getting back, with your firm. And we've already seen that with some of these law firms, kind of getting blackballed and individuals that were involved. So he has a hard time attracting talent. This isn't the Trump of 1980, 1990, early 2000. This is the Trump of, post January 6th, where nobody wants to go near them.
Do you think he's electable?
Yeah, I do think he's electable. Absolutely.
I don't, for many reasons.
Well, look, he's got millions and millions of people.
Nothing to do with my issues towards him, obviously, because his base is still there. His supporters are still there. I mean, there are quite a few. I mean, I don't want to say quite a few, but I would say a significant amount in the conservative movement, like myself, that are calling out these problematic issues that he's not addressing and that he wants to, deflect from and basically put the blame on others rather than just take accountability, but his main supporters, the people that are with him till the end, no matter what, are never going to address these matters. They're just going to look at him as Trump can do no wrong. He's perfect. He's more powerful than Jesus Christ. And I've always, been the person that has to call balls and strikes. I can't look at things from one side, and yeah, it's a problem.
Well, but the thing is,
our party gets mad at the Democrats for doing that, but they do that shit with Trump. So I find the hypocrisy fascinating.
But as far as electability, as long as Joe Biden is in office,
with electability, let me get back to that real quick. I want to get back to electability. Obviously, policy-wise, Trump would be better than Biden. There's no doubt about that. I will say this, though. I think we live in a time where people care more about words and how people come off than they do about actual action, if that makes any sense. Like, we live in that time where
it's pretty pathetic. People will vote for Biden
you and I have talked about this. This is where we're at. Like, people can't necessarily handle the tough talk. They can't handle the authentic approach. They do better, unfortunately, with the sugarcoating narrative. And I think people have this image painted in their mind of Trump, and I don't think that's going away. I mean,
but you're doing. Let me finish. You're looking through the lens of.
Let me finish. We've seen people going through devastating times in the past. And I know that's what you were going to say. You were going to get to that. We've seen people go through devastating times in the past. Did some change their vote? Sure. But was it enough? No, because I think people really need to hit the actual bottom of the bottom before they really get to that point of, all right, I'll vote for this guy who I've hated for so long, who I think is the ultimate enemy. So I just don't, and I know you've talked about how you think there's going to be voters that are just going to be like, well, my bank account's really fucked right now. Let's just vote for Trump because he's going to do better economically. And sure, like I said, I think some will vote that way, but I don't think it's enough. I don't think people are at the very bottom yet. I think people are struggling. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think people.
It doesn't have to. Right now, that's that, and everybody sees that, and that will be a big part of it. But you have to understand.
What about the Fed though? What about them coming out with all these skewed numbers and all these gullible and naive?
Well, but again,
what about all these cable?
Yeah, we're talking about the pocketbook though. The Fed doesn't tell people what's in their pocketbook. People look at their pocketbook themselves. But what will be compounded at the economic problems is just the border. That's why I say, yeah, maybe people will say they're better, maybe they're not. But look at the border. The border is impacting everybody.
CNN and CBS and NBC, CNN are calling it a problem. Like you got the liberal channels calling it out now.
And when Al Sharpton's calling it an invasion, listen, that is a huge, huge thing. And that's why I say that Trump can win on that, because the border and the economy are really tied together in many ways. There is the economy that can live, stand on its own. But when you look at the border and all of the tens of millions that have come across illegally and the enormous stress it's putting on education, healthcare, social safety nets, all of this, that in of itself is a massive, massive economic impact. So Trump can just win on the border alone, and then you got the economy. So he's definitely electable based on that. And I get a lot of people the name calling, but then you've got the people on the left, and when Joe Biden used the F word and called, he said whatever he called Trump, some bad F word. And they're saying they like this. I don't know why they keep Joe Biden, closed up. I like him. I like this genuine. So they want genuine words and that kind of harsh language. When it comes from Obama and it comes from Biden, they just don't want it to come from anybody on the right. So that whole American people don't like the bad language, bad tweets. Well, that's discounting the millions and millions and millions of Americans who love that in of itself, that alone about Donald Trump, that he speaks his mind, that he's unfiltered all of the time. And I'll tell you, when you look at him and I don't have to agree with everything that he says, but when he does an interview, I mean, he's just on fire. There's nothing that he doesn't have an opinion about. He doesn't you listen to Biden, he's stumbling and bumbling. Yeah, when I was elected, I sat down with a English prime minister. A French Mitterrand. Yeah, the guy that died in 1996. The contrast is so deep and unbelievable. You can't even fathom how somebody can vote for Biden over Trump. Again, it's all going to come down to how good the Democrats are at really hijacking state laws in some of these swing states and being able to harvest enough ballots to put Biden over the edge. Are they going to be able to hold on to that 95% black vote? It's going to come down to those two things. And if Trump can get 15% plus the black vote, and if they can keep the Democrats from massive ballot harvesting in the swing states, Trump will certainly have a chance.
Should be interesting. November is right around the corner, my friend. 9 months away, man. 9 months.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, it can't come too soon, because there's so much. You look at the border and the millions that are just pouring in and are going to pour in. I think it's going to accelerate, because with this election and possibility that Trump could be in office and shut the border down, whether or not he does, it's going to be a hell of a lot better than it was under Biden. But it cannot come soon enough. If nothing else, at least we can know where we're going. This is like Chinese water torture every day, looking at these migrants crossing the border. And now that, but you're seeing the crime in the streets, the beating up the cops and then going free, snatching phones, and one lady dragging her on the scooter. It's just over the top, unbelievable. And what's it going to take? Is it going to take somebody in Texas who's going to pull his gun out and shoot 5 migrants, illegals, because they try to rob them? Hey, maybe that's what's going to take. That people are just going to stand up to these people. And are the American people, when they watch 5 migrants, 5 illegals, 5 criminals hitting a cop, where were the hundreds of people that were watching with their phones in their hands? Where were they? Why weren't they coming to the rescue of those 2 cops? Because I'll tell you, I know I would, absolutely. Eventually, I think the top is going to blow off the American people, and they're just not going to take it anymore, as these illegals are taking over their cities, taking over the schools that their children go to so that they can sleep in there, getting millions and millions of dollars in free credit cards, while the American people, are struggling paycheck to paycheck. These people are getting prepaid credit cards. Something's going to break. And I think it's going to be the patience of the American people.
Eric Adams, he is giving them credit cards. And that was a big report out today. And he's defending that. And even his own party is like, what the fuck? Like, we have our own people struggling and you're doing this shit. Yeah.
It's really
I think I read
it's
50
beyond the pale.
What was it? 53 million in credit cards, something like
yeah.
that.
And then another 100-something million in housing and putting it up in hotel rooms. Look at the people aren't going to take it anymore. I'm sorry, they're just not. And you know what I've always said? Yeah, the whole create a Democrat Party. They want to do that, create a permanent Democrat Party and possibly vote out. Yeah, that's just the easy. They want to create this. And you know, I'm finally hearing people talk about it. I talked about this in 2020, 4 years ago. 4 years ago at a Patriot group in Gulf Breeze, Florida. Somebody asked me about the border, and I said, listen, this is all intentional, but it's not just for votes. It is to create a call for the massive expansion of the federal government. And we're seeing that because the city of New York doesn't have any money. They're not going to pay for that. It's all going to come from the federal government, AKA the taxpayer, AKA the future taxpayer, because the taxpayers today aren't paying for it because we're already running $2 and $3 trillion deficits. So it's the future taxpayer as we run these massive deficits. So that's it's very, very problematic. And that's something that you cannot change. You can't fix that. When you're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars in debt, that's never going to reverse. Now you might get the son of one of these illegals. You give him all amnesty. Maybe the son of him is going to become a Republican, and there's a possibility, albeit maybe it's slim, but at least you got a chance to take one of these illegals and make him that becomes a citizen. That he might become a Republican, that he might vote. There's a chance, but there is zero chance that the 10 to 15 trillion dollars that we're going to add to the 34 is ever going to get paid back. There's zero chance that money is going to get paid back. Never. And that means there's zero chance that the dollar is going to remain the world's reserve currency. It's zero chance of that. So that is a permanent problem that is irreversible, that will impact 300 million plus Americans, real Americans. And you're not going to be able to fix that and change that. That's the permanent problem that they're creating at the border. And it just... That's the one that people aren't paying attention to. They're just paying attention to, oh, yeah, the votes. They're going trying to get votes. Yeah. Well, let me tell you, that's not the one that's going to hurt you. I got news for you. That's not the one that's going to hurt you, your children, and your grandchildren. This massive, exploding, unsustainable debt is going to hurt them. And a collapse of the U.S. dollar is what will really hurt all of us.
The Senate border deal they put together is pretty pathetic.
It's horribly pathetic.
Yeah,
not a real deal. It's not even like negotiable.
Like I've been saying for months, we have the worst type of Republicans leading the charge and representing us in this matter. There's no tough stances. There's no plan that is sustainable. Nothing that is a real long-term solution. In certain ways, we could argue that this plan makes the matter maybe worse.
Much worse.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to do is make this stuff a law. Right. Better off doing nothing. And so the next president can come in and do something. But you don't want to make it a law because then you got to get Congress to repeal the law or change it.
Yeah. And
look at Obamacare. The worst thing is getting that passed. That's why I said the last hope to putting that to death was Mitt Romney. And pretty sad that guy was the last hope because it had not yet gone into effect. And Romney was, he was our last chance to overturn that. He could have, but he didn't get elected. So once it went into play and the wheels started turning on that, we're never going to get rid of Obamacare. Well, we'll get rid of Obamacare when we get a single payer system.
Remember, here's another one of Trump's failures, and we have to call this out. Trump said for the longest time that he was going to get rid of Obamacare. He never did.
Well, because he got bamboozled and he failed to have the necessary leadership. He allowed McConnell to say, we're going to replace it. No, you're going to repeal it, not replace it. Because once the replacement failed, right. If you can't replace it, you sure as hell can't repeal it. So that was very poor leadership. Again, that's Trump just when these people say, I don't want a politician, That's like saying, you know, you need heart surgery. I don't want a cardiothoracic surgeon. I want a businessman. I want a business. Do you want a businessman to do your open heart surgery? Guy walks in and said, I built this beautiful hospital. I built the best, most beautiful hospitals in the world. I built the most beautiful hospitals. I'm going to do your surgery. No, thank you. No, thank you. Just give me a doc that works on hearts. So this whole asinine statement, he's not a politician. Yeah, well, you need a politician. It's skill. Unfortunately, we have this idea, this notion about what being a politician is. And so everybody kind of goes, listen, because Trump was not a slick politician, he's allowed himself to be manipulated, and he didn't know to play the game. And he didn't get things passed like that. So he dropped the ball on a lot of things. And I think a lot of it was due to the fact that he was not a politician. And you don't have to be a rotten whore to be a politician. You can be a great politician. I mean, I look at guys like Rand Paul. He's a politician. He's been in the Senate. He's been in Washington a long time. Ron DeSantis, he's a politician. And Ted Cruz. I mean, on and on. I can go. These are great politicians, and they share our values, our morals, our convictions, and our political policies. You want a guy that knows how to work that system. And you know, unfortunately, that's not Trump. But, you know, a guy can be a great businessman. That doesn't necessarily resonate in Washington, D.C.
Right. That's true. And I want to bring up the whole Putin-Tucker interview. Did you see that? Tucker?
Yeah, I saw. Well, I didn't see the interview. He hadn't done it yet, has he?
No, but not that I know of. But Tucker.
Well, I mean, he hasn't posted it.
Yeah.
Aired it.
Yeah. But Tucker, being in, I think he's in Moscow. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I think open dialogue is important. I'm curious to see how this all plays out, what that interview's like, what questions Tucker asks. Yeah. We haven't really seen this too often. I mean, there's been a few.
Well, we haven't seen it at all. We haven't been.
I mean, Oliver Stone interviewed Putin. There's been a few people that have, but
no, I'm talking about since the Ukraine war.
Yeah.
It's just Putin's a demon, and Zelensky's the savior of the world. And I'm sorry, the whole thing is a giant mess. And let's hear it. Not that I'm going to believe it. I mean, Putin, this guy's a master manipulator, right. So it's not like I'm going to believe what he says, but. I don't believe anything that Zelensky says either. At least give the people equal time.
What about body language? I mean, with Putin, do you think he's such a master? Do you think he's such a champion in the regard that he can basically not show any sort of signs that he's lying? I mean, do you think he's good at really keeping a straight face, or do you think
a lot of it Putin believes?
Do you think you can tell if he's full of shit, or do you think he's good at playing that role of?
Well, it's hard to tell when somebody speaks Russian, a completely different language, and you're getting it, and that it's hard to tell.
What about the eyes? What about the body? What about the way?
Yeah, but even still, it's hard really to judge that because. It's a different language and all that. But I don't think that there's going to be much that Putin has to lie about. I mean, he can lie about body counts and success of the war and, why he went in. But I don't think he has to lie about why he went in. I think his whole point was.
Right. He has no reason to lie. He has no reason.
Yeah. Now, is he going to push that? Yeah, it was. I don't know what I heard. But look, I think that whatever the guy says, whatever Putin says, he's been saying a long time, a lot, and he's pretty confident. Even if he's not telling the truth, he knows how to spin it. And but I think that he knows that Tucker Carlson is anti-Ukraine, anti-billions of dollars of U.S. to go there. So I think Putin is, my only thing that I wonder about is. If Putin is indeed this sick man that you hear is got one foot in the grave and one on a banana peel, is that true? Is he going to be able to hide that if he's got, I've seen these, you see these where he's holding onto a table and they say it's to keep his whatever, I don't know if they say Parkinson's or whatever he has. So that is what I'm kind of curious about, to see is if you're going to be able to see any signs of physical infirmities with the guy. That's that. The rest of it, though, as far as, reading his body language, is this guy's telling the truth or not? Look, I mean, when Xi Jinping talks, when Zelensky talks, when Putin, when all of them, they're lying when they're spilling. Look at when Biden talks and Obama, they're lying.
Right.
But just because the content of what they're saying.
Yeah, and I am curious to see, just the interactions between the two. I think they'd get along. I think that, and I believe Putin way more than I believe Zelensky.
Well, I mean, I say I don't believe either of them. I mean, they're both liars for sure.
But going back to the interaction thing, I was talking about between Tucker and Putin, but also with the whole Zelensky and Putin thing. I do, like I said, I think Putin's more trustworthy, but that's not saying much. But go ahead, as you were saying.
No, I think they're both liars. They're both rotten people. I'll say one's more virtuous than the other.
I will say, and we have to.
But so is Biden too.
We have to acknowledge and admire that Putin has done a hell of a job with the Russian economy. I mean, I think that's something that should really. Because, I mean, look at what he's doing right now. Look at all the money they're making off all of this. Everything going on. Trade, oil. We could go on and on.
Yeah, it's costing them a lot too, though. I mean,
but they're making.
Money's in one hand and out the other.
I think if we wanted to look at every other country right now around the world and then look at Russia, I think Russia probably is better off than a lot of other countries.
I don't know that I would go that far. Maybe, I mean,
economically,
other countries. If you're talking about the Congo and Sierra Leone and Tunisia.
Right, do you think Russia's economically better off than China right now? Yes.
No, I don't. No,
you don't. Even though China is
no, because their economy is like a pimple on your butt compared to China's. I mean, China's got a massive economy, and their troubles. Listen, I mean, Russia's troubles are global in terms of being able to move money around. They have to do financial gymnastics to be able to get their money from one corner of the globe to the other, because all of the sanctions on them. I mean, they can't do anything without the scrutiny of a bunch of countries that have imposed sanctions against them. And China doesn't have that problem. I mean, China pretty much has free reign to do whatever they want. So, I mean, in spite of the fact that China's economy is in big trouble and they got huge problems, but, you're talking about thousands and thousands of Russians are getting killed, as are Ukrainians. I mean, they're gutting a very young population of their people, and, I mean, making a lot of widows and getting rid of a lot of young men killed, as in the same with Ukraine. It's going to be hard to recover from that.
And look at what they're doing in Ukraine. You bring up the whole scenario of them killing all these men, leaving all these widows behind. And the media barely reports that. And I think we've talked about this before, a long time ago. When this is all said and done, how can the media cover their tracks on this? And Hollywood and all these people that were promoting this war and pro-Ukraine, when all this, I mean, stuff is already coming out, but when it all comes out, I don't think the media can run from this. I think eventually they're going to have to explain themselves. I mean, I understand we always see new headlines come out and things can go under the rug and things can disappear. But I think this is a big enough headline and story, because it's lasted so long, that it's not going to go away.
Yeah, maybe. But, we see these atrocities all around the world. And, once they're in the past, nobody digs them up, and, you never get the real truth. So who knows? I don't know. I think it's going to depend on how the thing ends. If it ends with American troops going in there, or it ends with Americans going in there and American dollars rebuilding, maybe it'll become a story. But, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, look, just because my philosophy is this administration has been enabled the deaths of tens of thousands of people that would not have been killed had the United States led with diplomacy and getting a deal done in that region. But it didn't have to happen. Now, it may not have come out favorable for Zelensky, but hey, that's tough. It's tough. Either you want to kill all your people? Well, all right, then all right. You don't want to do it, we walk away. But you're not going to get our money. We're already trillions of dollars in debt. We can't afford to give you money. Sorry. And I guarantee you, if we were not giving them the billions and billions of dollars, they would have been at the negotiating table a long time ago. But of course, the fecklessness, our crazy, ridiculous withdrawal from Afghanistan, it all caused all of this to happen. The fact that Biden is so pathetic and weak. But it happened. Russia saw the opportunity and they moved in. And, it wasn't the responsibility of the United States to spend $150 to $200 billion plus what everybody else is to prolong this war to 2 years. It's horrible. It's been a horrible mistake.
Speaking of spending in wars, they're talking about sending more money to Ukraine, a lot of money, and sending a lot of money to Israel, but not very much
None
money
to the border, none to our border.
Yeah, exactly. So they want to send all this money to foreign nations, but fuck America. Who gives a fuck about us, right?
No, and that's why I say that the solution in Washington is not something that you can't look to Washington to solve these problems, because they are creating the problems. And I've always said that they're not the solution to the problems. They're always the problem standing in the way of solutions. So you have to, if you're looking for solutions, you have to look in your own backyard. As far as Washington is concerned, the only way is to shrink the ugly giant Leviathan to nothing. You have to make it smaller. If you're going to squander 25% of every dollar that goes into Washington, let it be 25% of $3 trillion budget, not 25% of a $6.8 trillion budget. Just do the math. It's simple math, because I don't care how much you're carrying, how big the bucket is or how small the bucket is. This city of whores, these prostitutes, they're going to squander 25% of all that money. So make them have a smaller bucket of money. Make it a $3 trillion, a $3.5 trillion debt or budget. 4.5 tops, $4.5 trillion. That's all it should be. It could easily be done. Then it could get smaller, but it should certainly be south of 4.5 trillion. All right. So what's half of quarter of that? Let's call it $4 trillion. So that you waste $1 trillion. Well, that beats a quarter of $7 trillion. Look, the only way we're going to get us out of this mess is to make the bucket in Washington smaller. But, that's about as likely to happen as, Joe Biden becoming a staunch pro-life supporter.
It's true. It's true, man. Very well said.
It's the only hope. It's the only hope in this country, in the future of this country.
Speaking of bureaucrats and corruption, did you hear about the dozens of NYC government employees arrested by the feds? Most single-day bribery arrests in DOJ history. Wow, man. Let me read this real quick.
Does it really surprise anybody?
Dozens of public housing employees in New York City were charged with bribery and extortion on Tuesday, in a record for the largest number of bribery charges filed in a single day by the Justice Department. Federal prosecutors in Manhattan charged 70 current and former employees of New York City Housing Authority with accepting cash bribes from contractors in exchange for housing authority contracts, the New York Times reported. The suspects are accused of accepting more than $2 million in bribes from contractors who wanted to work on nearly 100 of the housing authority's buildings in all 5 boroughs. More than $13 million in work was awarded, with the suspects typically getting 10% or 20% kickbacks, sometimes more, prosecutors said. The suspects were arrested in handcuffs in a major raid Tuesday morning. Can you imagine getting raided for something like that? Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, that's New York. That stuff has been happening for decades.
I understand people get raided for stuff like that, but in my opinion, I only think raids should occur with violent people, not people that are committing financial crimes and things that are nonviolent. But no, I get it. People should still pay a price, though. But the whole raid thing, I always thought that was dramatic, unless you're going after rapists or killers or people that are hardcore criminals.
Yeah, well, but you also got to understand a lot of these people are organized criminals. They've been doing that kind of thing in New York City for decades.
I guess
mean,
you never know
decades.
how somebody's going to react. I guess take that into consideration.
Yeah, there's that. You don't know how they're going to react. I mean, these are not good people. Some of them. Also, it's about protecting the evidence. A lot of these people keep two sets of books, so you don't want them to throw the sets of the incriminating evidence away or burn it or trash it or flush it out there or whatever they're going to do with it. So I mean, you raid them to protect the evidence. You don't give them a chance to dispose of anything. But look, seriously, you find me any public office in New York City, and I will find you corruption.
Exactly. And Washington, D.C., this happens every day, and you don't really
every city across the country.
You hear about it in the news.
Every big city across the country.
Everywhere. And you probably,
Chicago, I mean, come on. You don't think that that's
Mark, you probably hear about it 1% of the time, maybe 2%. You never hear about it because a lot of times it goes under the rug. They keep it on the down low. Only a very rare, very rarely does it get to this level where people are.
Well, because the truth is, you got so many layers of people on the take. Well, I'm going to turn somebody in. Okay, my boss is on the take. His boss is on the take.
A lot of names are involved that if one person's going down, the whole crew's going down. So that's why people are good about keeping it quiet.
Yeah, the people in charge of watching the hen house are on the take.
Right. Right. Yeah, man. I mean, if more of this would just get exposed and people would get charged, that would be wonderful. But we see this kind of stuff, and I mean, it feels good. I mean, I like seeing this sort of justice, but it's not enough, man. It's not satisfying. It's just not satisfying enough. It's not, because this should be happening every day if justice was proper and fair in this country, but it's not. It's not.
No.
I mean,
everybody knows we've got two systems of justice in this country. So,
can you believe, if you really think about it and you really take this in, you have the people that are supposed to be working for us, selling us out every day for large amounts of money, enriching their bank accounts. So they're getting elected doing the opposite of what they're supposed to do.
Well, yeah, because that's why I call it the city of whores.
The ultimate form of deception.
No, I don't know about that. Look at
the way you go.
We come into this. We don't have to learn to be corrupt. I mean, this is what people don't realize. We are born with a sin nature. We are born to be immoral. That is our nature. It's just the opportunity. Do I have the opportunity? Some people just have massive opportunities to show their true selves. The only way you become you have to learn righteousness. It has to be taught. It has to be conversion in your heart. Now, somebody who's a Christian believes the only way to do that is to have a right relationship with God the Father through Jesus Christ. But you're born with the predisposition to be an evil, wicked, unrighteous person. The heart of man is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? So you don't have to learn. So if you were just born with this nature, and then you go and you're exposed to all of these opportunities, of course you're going to take advantage. It's like that joke where the girls, the guy offers a girl on the flight $1 million to sleep with her, and she agrees. And when he gets off the plane, he tells her, I only have $10. And she says, $10? What do you think I am? And he says, well, we've already established that. We're just working on the price. So, I mean, that's what it is. It's just, these people are whores. It's just, what is their price? What is the price? So no, it doesn't surprise me at all. Look, it's our culture, our society, which is why I don't blame people that are living off of government and taking all they can get from the government. I don't blame them. There's a big giant pile of money over there. I'm going to say, hey, don't go over there. That's immoral. How are you going to tell somebody who doesn't have anything not to go feed at the trough? Of course he is. I blame the people that are filling that trough up and enslaving these people. They are the people doing the evil work, like the drug dealer. You got a guy that's walking down the street and he's buying. What are you going to attack the guy who's a drug addict? He's addicted. Look, it's the guy that's selling him the drugs. They're the ones bringing it. So Washington D.C. is addicting people to the heroin of the government, and they themselves are taking their cut, like this huge Ponzi scheme. Like Bernie Madoff with everybody's money. He was borrowing from Peter to pay investments for Paul, and he was taking his giant cut in the middle. And that's what these people in Washington are doing. They're doing the same thing. Borrowing from the future, paying whomever, and then getting the money from the K Street lobbyists that are donating to their campaigns and giving them gifts and trips.
It's never ending, man, and I feel like it's only getting worse. I feel like we talk about it hopefully getting better, but I think it's only getting worse, and not enough people are doing anything about this to make it better, if that makes sense, because people want to continue to enrich themselves. People want to continue to fill up their bank accounts, because it would be political suicide if they didn't have this luxury and this option,
Well, maybe there have always only been.
I feel like there's only a select few,
and it's always been that way. That's what I was going to say. Right. There's always only been a few.
Right. Most of them are so hungry to get elected for the wrong reasons. They want to go enrich their bank accounts. They want access. They want all these different resources that they couldn't get as a regular citizen.
But that's why I say it starts at the grassroots. These people go to Washington and they whore themselves out. But you know what? Their future rests in their ability to get reelected. So if they are meeting the needs of their constituents and they represent their constituents well, then they get reelected. Notwithstanding the fact that money corrupts elections all over the country all the time.
Right.
But they ultimately have to go home and they have to answer to their people, and that's why it's the people's responsibility that if you have demands that for example, I'm a huge anti-climate change guy. If you're buying into that, you are either stupid or you're a liar, or maybe you're both.
Right.
So I demand that my representative oppose all of those measures that are pushing the climate agenda. Unfortunately, we don't have that. Our representative is a huge proponent of those. So ultimately, it's the people here, and we're sending these people home, sending these people to Washington. And it's nice when you have somebody who has some moral convictions, a godly person who can't be bought and sold in Washington. But we've only, in the last 100 years, we've only had a few of those at any given time. You got to go back, 150 years to see a majority of people in Washington being, moral, godly, Christian type men. I mean, those days are long gone.
And how do we, we can't really vet these people enough. I mean, there's just not enough. It's hard because a lot of these people, I'll tell you something, Greg. I've had faith in various individuals that have gone into office, and they continuously let me down. It's sad.
Yeah, but you're at this level. You're trying to match.
And believe me, I try.
You don't vet the guy from California.
Sorry?
You don't vet the guy from California. You don't vet my representative. You know who vets my representative? The Republican Executive Committee of Florida and the chapter here at Escambia County. Every county in Florida and every county in America has an executive committee, a Republican. The RNC, the Rhonda McDaniel. She is the head of the RNC, and then the RNCs are in the states, and then the states are in the counties. It is the responsibility of this REC right here in Escambia County to vet every single candidate, because people in California aren't vetting Matt Gaetz or Mark Lombardo or Greg Merck, three guys in the primary last time. That is the responsibility of your local executive committees or whatever your groups are called. They vet. And the problem is they don't vet. They just cheerlead. If they like the guy, yeah, he's a great mega guy. We're gonna look. The guy's a climate change. He's a huge animal rights guy, and he's a gay rights. There's no vetting done. So is it any wonder that we're sending the wrong people to Washington? You're saying that we don't vet these people.
You bring up something that is very important, though, and I think it's not touched on enough, and I don't think people shine light on it. as much as they should. This whole having more influence and say if you live in another state over the people that get elected to Congress, because I feel, look at how they decide on laws. Look at how they decide on legislation. They're obviously representing more people than those just in their district. So people around the country should have more say. And I'm not saying they should vote in these elections, but they should be, I don't know where I'm trying to really come up with something, a solution, and put it in the best context. I'm sure you know where I'm going with this, because look at the way they vote. Look at the way they put legislation together. It impacts all of us. And for all of time, the way the voting goes is the only, and the way they put it out there, only the people in the district have the power. And I get it. I get that. But look at how the voting is done. Like I said, it impacts the entire country. So what do you think should be done about that? If there should be anything. I don't know if anything can be done, but I think it's a little selfish. But I understand if we let.
This is the system that we live in.
Do you understand?
Nobody has more.
Do you understand where I'm going with this?
Yeah. But look, the system is. I think you're missing how the system really works. Nobody in Washington.
Well, I know how the system works, but I'm saying, look at when they vote, how it impacts the entire country.
Well, that's because that's what it says. But
when they vote on these bills, and these people that elect them, the only people that get to put them in office are those people in those districts.
And it's the same everywhere in America. All the districts are the same size, not square miles, but people. 750,000, give or take a few. Every single congressional district is the same.
It would be one thing if those people getting elected into office in those districts were just doing things for those districts, but they're doing things for the entire country with the way they're putting legislation out there.
But that's why I say not necessarily, because ultimately they have to come back to their district. Now, unfortunately, a lot of money.
I would say they do more stuff nationally than for their actual district.
Well, that's just because that's the politics of Washington, where we're all going to, get together and have a movement. And the Democrat Party's been so radicalized.
I'm not saying anything should change. I'm not saying anything. Well, nothing ever will change. I'm just saying.
Well, some of these seats flip. We've seen that.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair, because it's been like that for the longest time, for as long as the system has been in place. And I just think it's.
But I mean, look, bills get passed. I mean, it'd be nice if we had 435 people in Congress and none of them agreed on anything and no bills got passed. That'd be great, because frankly, I think we have way too many laws, and the less it gets done in Washington is the better. But the fact is, these people want to go to Washington. They want to pass bills. They want to make some change. And all part of that, they say the sausage making, all whatever. So they get, but they don't, they ultimately have to go back to their districts. And sometimes you'll see where these people are so disastrous that the district flips. I mean, look, at every 2 years, districts flip. They go from red to blue, blue to red. So ultimately, they got to come back and answer to their people. And the thing is are the people in their district going to see this guy as such a disaster that they want to get rid of him? Unfortunately, the real problem is these people become so infused with money and in the ability to sway the public. And you've got, like Trump, for example. Trump's moved by being liked, getting his ass kissed. So he's gonna come to Northwest Florida. He's gonna say Matt Gaetz is the greatest guy. Matt Gaetz is a pro climate change, pro gay rights, pro animal rights. I mean, this guy is a disaster on marquee issues of the Conservative Party, and yet Trump is going to endorse him, and because he kisses his ass. And the guy does nothing. He's done nothing for this district, done nothing for the state, and certainly done nothing for the American people. He's an utter disaster. But again, it's up to all 435 districts to do their job, the people to do their job, and to expose these people who they are. And, you win some, you lose some. Sometimes you flip a district, sometimes a district gets flipped. But, when you go to Washington, we have a two-party system, and, these people are going to align themselves with their party. And that's just the way it works. That's the republic that we live in. It's a great system. It's a great system, but it ultimately falls on the backs of the American people. But unfortunately, Washington has become so powerful that they have taken that power and the ability of the American people to make this country one that's governed by the people. And, we don't have a free market capitalist system anymore. We're more socialist, way more socialist than we are capitalists. And there's too much money in these seats. So, people can lie through their teeth and project themselves and present themselves as something that they're not. It's a flawed system, but it sure as hell beats anything else in the world.
Right. And it feels like a one-party system, man. It doesn't feel like a two-party system.
Well, as long as you've got people that've been there whoring themselves out for so many years, like McConnell and Schumer. Yeah, I mean, is there really any difference between these two? Maybe slightly, but I don't think there's a whole hell of a lot of difference. I mean, how is this Langford guy, this clown, how is he getting with Sinema writing this disastrous border bill? What could possibly make this guy think that this would be a good bill for any of the American people, for any American?
Right. It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. Speaking of ridiculous, Nevada Supreme Court hosts gender ideology best practices training for judges. This is where we're at. The Nevada Supreme Court hosted a course that taught judges how to create access for trans and gender non-conforming people, according to documents recently obtained by the Daily Caller News Foundation. In July, the court hosted a one-time class titled Transgender and Gender Non-Binary People in the Nevada Courts, Practical Tools and Best Practices for Nevada Judges, led by Todd Brower, the director of the Judicial Education Program at UCLA School of Law's William Institute. The course included a presentation highlighting data and information about sexual orientation, gender expression, terminology, and pronoun use. Participants were also provided with hypothetical courtroom scenarios involving trans-identifying litigants, according to the slideshow presentation obtained by the DCNF. Wow, man, this is where we're at.
Now, this is where we've been at. Look, this has been a movement that's been going on for years. And, it's just a waste of time to talk about. I like to go past all of the nonsense talk.
But this is not the only example. I mean,
no, but my point is
this, Supreme Courts that are going with this entire curriculum. So.
Yeah, but the issue is not, okay, this is so stupid and terrible and illogical. Yes, the discussion is how we are fundamentally transforming this country on every level. And from the courts to the education system, every aspect of our country is being fundamentally transformed, whether it's the radical LGBTQ, whether it's the racist narrative, whether it's the climate change narrative. It's all about fundamentally changing. None of it is logical. None of it makes sense. It's all chaotic, but that's what happens when truth is supplanted by imagination and fantasy. But what we're seeing is the fundamental transformation of this country. We are putting a completely new face on what it means to be an American, what the American dream represents, what opportunity in America means, and what American exceptionalism is. We are completely redefining it, and redefining it within the Marxist control the masses, homogenize the globe narrative. It's all about the homogenization of the people, global homogenization. Make us all look the same, make us all live the same, make us all talk the same, and all of us have the same standard of living, while the people at the top are the ones controlling. It reminds me of that movie with Justin Timberlake. If you remember, they were born with so many years, and it kind of ticked off, and you worked, and you got, what was it?
Was it called In Time?
Yeah, in time. So to get to he had to drive through all these areas to get to the people that had, like 50,000 years on his arm. But he lived way, way, way uptown. And you had to cross all these areas. And that's what we're becoming as a globe. We're becoming a world like that. To get to these people, the Bezos and the Zuckerbucks and Elon Musk, all of them, they're so far beyond us. I mean, look at Zuckerberg. He's building how many $100 million, underground bunker that's just like better than, 99% of the homes in the world. These people, you're never going to get to them and be like them and associate with them. And they love that. It's perfectly fine. That's why they want us all to be in the same mold. They don't like a middle class and a low class. They want one class. You're all the same. And so they're melding us. They're homogenizing all these and churning them up while they'll live way, way the hell up there. And by the time you get there, all of the dates on your arm just got zapped off. It's going to cost you all your years to get through those gates. If you remember how that movie was, every time you had to go through one of those gates, it cost you so many years. So that's the way these people are getting. And little different philosophy. It's all about taxation. You're not going through a gate that's going to zap the years off your life, but they're taxing everything. This whole you'll own nothing. Well, how are they doing that? They're pushing. Our own government is pushing on what they call a wealth tax, but it won't just be for wealthy people. It'll be for everybody. You don't pay tax on everything you own. So if you're a middle class person that has a home worth $500,000 and you got to pay 10%, how about 5%? How about 1%? What, you're going to have to pay $5,000 just to own that home every year? It's just crazy. Well, why would you own a home if you're constantly having to write a check to the government just to own that? And it's not just your home. It's add up your car, add up your bonds and stocks, add up your 401, all of that. The government has to confiscate all of it and redistribute it. Otherwise, this current course that we're on everybody. So in order for that, well, you think Jeff Bezos and Zuckerberg, they're going to cough up all their money and they're going to live like you and I? That's never going to happen. They're going to confiscate all the wealth just through taxation. And that's part of this movement. And when you're talking about these crazy trans nonsense or climate change, or the racism in America and equity, it's all the same thing. It's all leading toward the global homogenization of the people.
Yeah, dude. It's and speaking of financials and numbers, credit. What was the report that just came out? Freaking! It was absolutely
$1.5 trillion credit card.
No, there was a report that just came out. Give me a second here. I want to pull this up real quick. Let's see here. Where is it? Give me a second. But yeah, I mean, frickin', yeah, the bankruptcy numbers are the worst they've ever been on record. I just saw that the other day.
Yeah. And rising. The numbers, and I keep saying it.
Oh, yeah. Reuters reports delinquency rates in the U.S. on credit cards and auto loans have risen to the highest since the Great Recession.
Yeah. I mean, now think about it, because you've got vehicles that were bought in the pandemic. Right. And remember what happened to those vehicles.
Tell me, Greg, that this was not part of the plan.
I know it's not part of the plan. It's just when you mismanage.
Hit these people at high prices and then fuck.
No, they didn't plan that. But you look at the asinine, the stupidity of people during the pandemic, the idiots that I need a car and they're going to pay more for a used car than a new car because they had to have that. The supply chains. I mean, it is all collateral damage to when Marxists rule dictates. Nobody wins. Nobody wins. Right. And we become a Marxist nation. All the lockdowns, the response, that was a Marxist response. And we were asking, you could just kind of completely predict this. Somebody buys a used car that has a sticker price, brand new for $30,000. They're paying $35,000, $38,000. Again, I know this. I saw this. I literally, I had a vehicle, ATV, that was brand new. I paid it brand new. The sticker on it brand new was $26,900. It was my kid's side by side. He rolled it. They totaled it. The used price was $31,000. Wait a second. The sticker price brand new was $26,900. I paid it out. I paid $24,000 for it with a discount. Now it's a year old. He rolled it, and the insurance says it's worth $31,000. It's actually $30,600. I don't want to exaggerate. $30,600. This is just crazy. So you got these idiots that bought these cars during the pandemic. They paid 20-30% more than they were worth because used car prices skyrocketed. And now they're stuck with it. Now the prices have plummeted. And the guy's losing his job or he has to make a third and fourth. So he's got this car that now, his payment's $1,000. If he wants to sell the car, he's upside down in the loan, $10,000, $15,000. He can't sell it because he's upside down 10, 15 grand. So he stops paying. You can't sell it. because you can't pay the loan. You see what I'm saying? So, and let's multiply this times millions of people. Millions of people are in this predicament. They paid way too much for their stupid used cars. Now they're up, just like the housing crash of 2000. They're way upside down in it, and they're not going to pay for it. What the hell am I paying for? So look, that's all part of the collateral damage when you mismanage the economy and the country as a whole. And all these things are going to get worse. It's just going to get worse. And the government manipulation, the 352,000 jobs last month, it's just lies. The reporting indexes, when you look at the BLS, you look at the establishment, and I've gone through this 100 times, just lies of numbers, lies. You know, if you get fired from your job and then you get a new job, they call that one new job. Now, in a household survey, if you got fired from your job and you get a new job, that's just one job, or that's 0 jobs because it's a net. Also, if you've got 5 jobs in your house in the household, that's one job, one person, because households count one person. Now, under the establishment, if you got 5 jobs, that's 5 jobs. But under the household, so the numbers are completely different. The real numbers are very, very small amounts of job creation, but the job growth has been dismal. And then the other one that it's hourly earnings. The average hourly earnings increased 0.6% and 0.4% the month before that in December. It's just total deception, because the hourly weeks has actually decreased. So it went from like 34.4 to 34.1 or 2. Well, that makes a huge difference. So you think hourly earnings increase? Yeah, because you got less hours. So, of course, the average hour, you made more per hour, but you're working less hours. That's a horrible sign. That's a terrible, it's a sick economy. When the labor participation rate is what it was during the pandemic lockdowns, and when you're working 34.1 average, that's not a full-time job. Right. When average hourly weeks is decreasing, that's horrible. That means people are getting laid off. We're losing full-time jobs, and we're replacing them with part-time jobs. That's not a strong economy. But I look at all this government made in China manipulation, made in Russia manipulation, propaganda, fooling the American idiots. And I watch these morons on the business networks. It says it's a resilient economy. Resilient, my ass. It's a horrible economy.
Powell, the guy that everybody's counting on, the guy that everybody has their eye on, having the audacity and the nerve coming on live TV saying the economy is strong, the numbers look promising, we have a lot to be happy about, a lot to be proud of. We have work to do. Well, no shit, you have work to do. He said there's gonna be some waves, there's gonna be some turbulence. Yeah, no shit, of course. But he said we're gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay.
Same guy, this is the same guy, remember, that said inflation was transitory. That was like what, 3 years ago, and it reached 9%. Which really reached more like 20%. Look, you've got Janet Yellen. What does Janet Yellen say? She says commercial real estate is concerning but manageable. You know why she says that? Because the government's just going to bail it out. Look, commercial real estate in America is in huge trouble. Huge trouble.
Yeah. We just saw another office building in LA sell for 52% less than what it's worth compared to
what it was worth 5 years ago.
No,
and that's
my bad. No, my bad. 52% less than what it sold for in
5 years ago.
Yeah, I think so, in 2018, correct? I think that's what I read. Yeah,
it's 5 years ago. That's all of them. Look, they're looking back to pre-COVID, 2018, 2019.
I mean, you've got Los Angeles office building that just sold for 52% less than its price 5 years ago. Yeah.
No, look, there's a building in Chicago that was $51 million 5 years ago. It was starting auction for $2.
Is this the new norm?
Yeah, it is the new norm. Of course it is.
Do you think people? I feel that people are going to be lucky to get these off their. They're
not going to get them off. They're going to turn them in. Look, the banks are getting stuck with them.
But I feel like the ones that do get them sold, even though they're a large loss, I feel like that's a blessing compared to having to just turn them in and just have them just be.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I'd rather just turn it in.
Yeah, depending on what they're. Yeah, obiously.
I mean, you turn it in, you lose nothing. Yeah. Hey, I'm not paying any. Look, there's a building in New York right now that was sold for mortgaged for $600 million. That the bank owns it now. The bank will take $120 million. So, I
Right.
mean, do the math on that. 600 million to 120. An iconic building in Chicago on Spring Street was 51 million. They'll
Yeah.
take 4 million. It went up for auction starting mid 2 million, got no takers.
Right.
They'll take 4 million for it. 51 million to 4. Do the math on that. That's a 94% loss. 94%. I mean, so 50%, that ain't bad. We're talking 60, 70, 80, 90%. We're talking about people that are going to show up to the bank and say, here's the keys. You own this building. And these banks, what are they going to do with them? I mean, maybe there'll be some people in China that are going to buy them. But all of this commercial real estate it's not going to come back because this is, I hate this phrase, the new norm. The working at home 3 days a week, only needing 50% office space. You don't need that. That's the new norm now. So what, are you going to fill these buildings up with people, 60 stories, 50, 40 stories? Nobody's going into the offices anymore.
Right.
So they can't convert many of them. They'll try, but that's way easier said than done than it is done. It's much more challenging.
Go ahead.
I don't think many of them will be converted to residential. I just don't see that happening. It's just not possible. I think you'll see a lot of the older building, the Class B and C stuff, will get the wrecking ball. You'll get the demolition guys are going to take them down. But I don't see that there's somehow magnificently this commercial real estate market is going to spring back and we are not going to have severe pain. That's just not going to happen. We're going to have pain. Whether it's pain in actual collapse and financial collapse there, or pain in the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury bailing everybody out and every American having to foot the inflation bill.
Do you know what I noticed, though, also? And this is another area that I don't think we've talked about enough. Movie theaters are barely holding on. And I've seen a lot of them close down. So what's that going to look like? We've already talked about malls. We've talked about malls a lot. And, with the movie theater stuff, the streaming services are taking over. But people also make the argument that going to the theater has that feeling to it of, you get that vibe, and there's a lot of nostalgia there. I mean, there's so much.
It's definitely changed. And I think the terrible lockdowns of COVID.
The prices are obviously just ludicrous at the theater.
That's why that's what's killing them.
Streaming, sir, I think we can argue that the prices are ludicrous and that's driving people away. But I also think we also have a country that's extremely lazy and wants everything at their fingertips. And a lot of times doesn't want to leave the couch and just wants to order DoorDash and Uber Eats and all this other shit. So they would just rather be on their TV and just click a button rather than go sit.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't know how big, there is a component of society. I mean, like my kid, it's funny. I was watching the new Wonka that's out. That's like the prequel. Wonka.
Oh yeah. I've heard that's horrible. I mean, I don't know much.
Oh really? It. Okay. So it looked good to me. I don't know. All I'm going to know is I could rent it. It's at the movies now. I could rent it now. It says rent. So I'm like, I clicked on it, because normally, Prime and all these now it's $20. I'm like, $20.
Right.
So I asked my son, I said, Rob, what's it cost to go to a movie? He said it's like $20. I'm like, well, I haven't been to a movie theater in years. $20? So no wonder nobody's going to a damn movie.
Last time I was at a theater was Top Gun 2, Tom Cruise. So that's the last time I was at a theater.
How much was the ticket?
Like $10.50.
Last time I was at a movie, I think it was around $9. My military discount or something, $9. I was floored. I'm like, what the hell? It just seemed like yesterday I was paying $5 for it. This is crazy to me, $20. So that's a big reason why people aren't going to the theaters. But you say that. What's funny is I'm looking on Facebook, Facebook Marketplace, and literally AMC theater chairs were for sale, $50 each. He's got a whole theater where the guy's selling AMC theater chairs for $50 each. So it's funny you say that.
Let me mention this. The whole movie theater thing, you brought up pricing. I mean, for one person to go to the theater, it's still cheaper than ordering it for $20 on demand. I mean, that's not every movie on the streaming that you have to pay $20 for that's still in the theater, but it's quite a few that are that much, and it is cheaper to go to the theater in certain cases. So, but take into consideration, you have to go buy popcorn, you buy a drink, you buy all that extra shit, and then so we could also put that into play.
That's the only reason why I go to a theater if I want to go, because I like the theater popcorn. I want to eat the popcorn and I want to get and I want to drink. That's the only reason why I like that, because no matter how hard I try, I cannot recreate that popcorn at home. So I like these. I like
junk. Microwave popcorn's junk.
No, you can't produce that at home. Right. And I kind of like the experience, although I never go to any new releases because I like to go to a theater when there's like maybe 10 people in there. Right. And that's enjoyable, very enjoyable for me, but not for a crowd. I don't like it, but I do like sitting in a chair, being with the popcorn. But it's kind of sad because that was what everybody growing up. We had the local theater that's what everybody did. And it was drive-in theaters as well, because they both kind of ran parallel. You were either going to the drive-in or you were going to the theater, and everybody did it. But you're right. Now people just kind of sit at home and they're just different. That the boys would rather be on their computers and playing games, and the girls are doing whatever the girls are doing. But it's definitely a changing society. And I don't know where the movie theaters fit in long term.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it used to, the movie theater experience. It's much different. Back in the day, it was so exciting. It was so fun. I used to love going to the theater. It was like my favorite thing. And now I just don't get the same feeling. Don't get me wrong. I still would love to see the movie theater make a giant comeback to what it once was, but I just don't think that's in the cards, unfortunately.
No, and a lot of it, and what makes it worse is, when you go to theater and you to your date and you're going to pay $40.
I drive by some of the like theaters that were once upon a time some of the busiest places, and now they're dead as a fucking doornail here. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Absolutely, across the board.
And you know what? The whole pandemic, you brought that up earlier. I think that, like I mentioned a lot, that took people out of a routine, that took people out of doing their everyday hobbies. Obviously, people struggled financially. I can give so many different variables, but I think when this really started hitting hard was when the pandemic happened. I think that's when movie theaters really started feeling the burn and the hurt.
Yeah, and when you're talking about inflation, when the guy, the girl standing behind that glass has to get paid $15, $20, $25 an hour, depending on where you live, and the ticket's $20, people just, if I'm going to go in there and get raped, I don't want to go somewhere and get raped. It sours you. If I went to a theater right now, I wouldn't go now that I know it's $20, but if I went there, it would be one time. I would go there and I would never go back. Not at those kind of prices. Then you're going to see, popcorn, $15, $20 or whatever, a Coke. 20. You don't want to go get raped and assaulted. I get it that you got to make money, but I don't want to get assaulted. Right. And so that just turns people off, and you don't want to go. You don't want to go there. You don't want to go back there. People don't mind paying some money, but they don't want to get raped and assaulted. That's just a little too much.
Right. No, I hear you, man. I hear you. Did you hear Bezos is planning on selling 50 million Amazon shares during the next 12 months? Is that something?
Yeah, why not? It's like all-time high. Why not sell it and make a bunch of money?
It's interesting. Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah. Alec Baldwin. Go ahead.
And Zuckerbuck's moving up to number 4 with a big spike in his he's the 4th wealthiest person in the world.
Did you see Alec Baldwin entering a plea deal in Russ shooting case?
Yeah. Is he going to get jail time? That's all that matters. He should go to jail.
He won't.
No.
Snapchat laying off 10% of global workforce to promote.
Yeah, I saw that, which is not a whole lot of people, but still it's 10%.
Well, it's another company, another example of so many companies that are laying off people left and right in this disaster.
But we got a strong economy. Strong. Everybody's doing good. Strong.
Yo, and what's up with Vince McMahon, dude? He's really getting in some shit, man, under federal and criminal investigation over sex allegations. Apparently, he's been involved with sex trafficking. There are other things going on. There was a woman that came out and said he pooped on her head during intercourse, took a shit on her head. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. I know some of these guys are into some weird fucking shit. He's a weird guy too, from from what it seems.
I don't know. Personally, these things
You
are
took your shit on her head, man.
that's reprehensible.
Talk about
But
degrading. Talk about degrading.
yeah,
Dude.
but my problem is, if it's true, yes, he should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
We don't know. We don't.
But I don't like that these, 10 years ago
all
he
these
did
years
this.
late, yeah, right. Like, why not report it? Why not make it a
Yeah.
big deal when it happened? Why wait so long?
Yeah, and I don't buy the trauma. You don't know. I mean, give me a break. Give me a break.
What's up with this Florida lawmaker proposing a bill to legalize killing crack bears? A Florida lawmaker recently proposed a bill to legalize killing black bears high on crack, according to the Guardian.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't read
Florida
the
State Congressman Jason Schoaf legislation seeks to remove most penalties for killing bears without authorization, which he says would stop the allegedly drugged animals from entering households and tearing them apart, the Guardian reported. There are no documented incidents involving a black bear that ingested cocaine in Florida, according to the Guardian's.
Isn't there a movie about that or something?
Yes, exactly. It's a movie. The legislator did not respond to the outlet's requested clarification. However, Schoaf reportedly said this bill is not about bears, adding that animal cruelty and baiting rules would still be enforced. What? Wow, man. Funny. Schoaf clarified that the legislation targets nuisance bears threatening humans and pets in neighborhoods. The outlet reported. He reportedly said the bill's opponents, who argue the legislation would allow killing bears in the absence of a threat, were fear-mongering. Whatever, dude. What the fuck? Wow.
Well, yeah.
Here's another interesting one. Owner of world's first AI brothel blames white men for stereotypical-looking sex dolls. The owner of a brothel that utilizes artificial intelligence claims that sex is moving in the direction of virtual reality in the digital world. The business, which also incorporates sex dolls, also shrugged off criticism that its doll depicts stereotypes of women by attributing their creation to white men. Psy Brothel, operating out of Berlin, Germany, combines the use of AI and virtual reality to connect its clients with neo-prostitutes. This means that the brothel does not have traditional human sex workers, but rather a series of sex dolls that are supplemented with virtual reality pornography featuring those very same dolls. Bimbo, Kokeshi, and Miss Shimit are some of the dolls' names, the New York Post reported, with users also having the option to engage in AI-generated conversations with the dolls' personas. Wow.
Well, we talked about this. This is where we're going in terms of, I think, personal relationships. This is just the next generation, the next iteration of the internet craze. We had softcore pornography in the 60s with Playboy. It became more hardcore in the 80s and 90s in the magazines. Then it turned online to video, and now it's going to go to AI. And it's more about destroying society. That physical interaction, which is what, since the beginning of time, society has flourished on and grown. And we're going to make everything, you got this the new headsets that came out with these idiots, the Apple headset. And right. I saw some clip of 4 people sitting.
Dude, I think it's worth the $3,500, man. I'm telling you.
No, I wouldn't touch one of them. You know what? I like the real world. I don't want to be a pathetic loser that lives inside this alternate reality, this AI nonsense.
Greg, I'll tell you, eventually we're all going to be doing that.
No, I won't. I'll be dead before that happens, and I won't do it. Eventually, we're all going to get the mark of the beast too, but I won't be here.
Greg,
I won't be here.
These things are going to be of the past eventually. We're all going to be wired in and hooked in.
Not all of us. I won't be. Look, there are people that are going to take the mark of the beast, and they're dead, doomed. I'm not going to. I won't be here for one, but I'm not going to be one of those people. I don't walk around with my face in my phone when I cross the street. I don't do that now. I don't text and drive and talk on, live in my social media while I'm sitting. I don't do that now. I'm not going to go to a basketball game like that idiot with a headset on. I'm going to watch the basketball players, whoever it is, LeBron James or whomever. I want to see the guy dunking the ball. I don't want to be looking at some idiot asinine looking VR headset.
The way they're moving, they got their headset on and they're moving their fingers and they're doing all these things. It's hilarious, man. It's like God, the movements, it's hilarious. So
You know, the kid, they say he's playing basketball. You know what? Then get 5 of your friends or 9 of your friends, 5-on-5, and go to the park and get a effing basketball game going. These low-life, loser, pathetic, limp-wristed, light-loafered freaks, they're going to play basketball in a headset? Go outside and dribble a ball, or go to the local Y, go to the gym and shoot some real baskets. Be a real man, not a pathetic millennial or Gen Z freak show that has no concept of reality out there. Just sit there in your VR.
Yeah, we're sick of
Get there and knock it out with your buddies and push each other around on the basketball court. Have a real damn game.
Yeah, enough of these beta males. Breaking news, though. Breaking news. Ronna McDaniel will step down after the South Carolina primary.
Finally.
That's good. That's good news.
Yeah, she's a disaster.
House fails to impeach Mayorkas. I mean, we already knew that wasn't going to go very far.
Well, I mean, it could have. What's his name?
They don't work hard enough, Greg. A lot of times they put stuff out there, and it's almost,
No, but look, we have a slim majority anyway. Greg, and a couple of those pathetic losers decided not to.
Greg, do you ever notice that, Greg? They put stuff out there, and they could really do something with it, but they never make the full effort. It's like they half-ass it.
Well, I don't think they made the full effort. They had some detractors last minute, some pathetic, some loser Republicans. And one of them, I think it was Scalise. I think he was the one. He was injured or got an operation or something, couldn't make it. And had he been there, they would have passed it. But yeah, you had a couple of sellout Republicans, man. Sellouts.
No, I know, man. It's just what a time. What a time. And I mean, at the border, I was seeing videos how there's openings, how people can just walk right through and nobody's even looking. Like it's terrible. And there's been homeowners that have tried to stop some of these people. And yeah, I mean, what the fuck are we even? I feel like America is Mexico. I feel like we don't even live in America anymore. I feel like we're living in Mexico.
Oh, you can't. We're nothing like Mexico. Mexico, you can't. You're not allowed to do that in Mexico.
No, I'm saying that you go into any grocery store, you go into any DMV, you go into anywhere, and you'll always see the site, like right next to English, you'll see Espanol.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I feel in many ways just our environment, our surroundings. And this is just the reality of things. I feel like us white people are the minority, and I feel like we don't have the America we once knew because of all the immigrants, because of all the second language.
Well, suffice it to say, the American citizen, the taxpayer, they don't give a damn about the American citizen, that for sure. Whether they're white, black, whatever, they don't give a damn about the American citizen. They are putting illegal people that are violent, invading our country, and many of them, in the hundreds and hundreds, thousands upon thousands of Chinese that have come to this country, and criminals. They're emptying out their prisons and sending them north to the United States, and they don't give a damn about the American people. I mean, just think about it. You got people in New York, their children can't go to school because they have to house illegals. They just don't give a damn about the American people. And, I've said it for a long time. America, blessed with so many people willing to die for their country, is becoming a country willing to die for the people. And that's exactly what they're doing. Look, when you think you're doing the world a favor, you're not doing a world a favor when you destroy America. I mean, yeah, maybe some people get hurt. We can't help everybody. But as long as you're in America, we can help somebody. But you're going to destroy America, and then you help nobody. Nobody. America is disintegrating. We're going to be no more. So you think you're doing these people a favor now at the expense of the country that is the greatest exporter of hope, of freedom, of its fiscal treasure, of its most sacred treasure, the blood and lives of its service members? You're going to obliterate that very country. For what?
Greg, no, well said. Agreed. Final thoughts, anything?
No, it's just a sad state of affairs in this country, and you think maybe tomorrow will get better, and the opposite happens. It gets worse.
No, I hear you, man. I mean, this winter is getting interesting. Spring will be interesting. Summer will be interesting. Election years are always interesting.
Yeah, they are. They are. And,
There's only so many people that are so focused on it. There's a lot of energy in the air. Go ahead, though.
no, I just say, this, I don't remain positive because I'm a realist. There's always hope, and we're never without hope. We don't have to be in despair. I'm pessimistic. I'm extremely pessimistic. I'm pessimistic about the future of this country. I'm pessimistic about our political system. I'm massively pessimistic about our economic situation. I'm certainly pessimistic about our condition spiritually in this country. But that doesn't mean I'm without hope and without despair. All that means is we have serious, serious work that needs to be done, and we have to start it right here in our own homes, in our own towns and communities, and then hope that it trickles up into the city of harlots.
Amen. Amen. Another episode in the books. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Daily S&M. We will see you all very soon. Until next time, I'm Rory Sauter. Greg Merck. God bless everybody. Much